And we're back here with Don Brzezinski, Director of Cross-Life Counseling. Again, you can go to their site, cross-life.org, and get some more information. Right now, we're talking about spiritual things, and we talked about our source, our identity, things like that. And we were left off was the flesh. And we said there is a remedy. And the interesting thing, though, is the remedy is nothing that you can do.
That's true, Derek.
It is a person.
It is. It's Jesus Christ. Jesus is the only true spiritual source. That's why I like to refer to him as the only true point of reference. He is God, obviously, and he does what he does because he is who he is. So, and yet human beings are derivative, as we've been talking, but that doesn't mean we don't have a choice in the matter. We were designed as choosing creatures so that we might be able to participate in a relationship with him.
Right, and we talked about that in one of our earlier shows, and that was we don't have free will. We have free choice.
I know a lot of people would, like, what?
Yeah, that's. I mean, that is a lot of people will say. I've have people question me. Well, what do you mean? I've always been taught. We have free will.
Well, to say that we have free will is once again to promote the faulty understanding that we are independent, that we are our own center, we're our own point of reference. The only one that truly has free will, that can do whatever he wants to do, whenever he wants to do it, is God.
Right.
All I got to do is say, if you have free will, make a tree.
Yeah.
And you can't.
No.
Now you have free choice. You were designed as a choosing creature to participate with God. And of course, in the case of Adam and Eve, they chose to participate with the liar, Satan. And so all men still have a choice, as it were. In a sense, there's kind of still two trees.
Right.
Two choices. It's either flesh or spirit. Flesh says, it's up to me. I'll be my own man. I'll do my own thing. And spirit is living 100% dependent upon God. Like, what? 100%? Does anybody really experience that? So the question is, what source are you living from? Now, I'm not asking people that claim to be Christians, whether they're a Christian or not. I'm asking whether or not they understand who they're choosing to participate with. There's a difference, isn't there?
Correct. You're not judging, if you will, or questioning their Christianity. You're just saying, do you know where you're deriving from? What source are you pulling from?
Yeah, because there's a lot of behavioral characteristics or character expression that may not be what we thought it was. And so I thought it would be good if we kind of unmasked, some of the flesh, because Satan wears a mask, doesn't he? He masquerades, he disguises himself, and certainly he wants us to think we're doing our own thing when in fact we're simply participating and acting out his character.
Right, and that's the part of him being such a good deceiver. We don't even realize that we're doing it. We don't even realize sometimes where we're deriving our source from.
Exactly, and there are hundreds of characteristics of what the Bible calls flesh. For example, let's just take a few that people might be able to relate to. We could say there'd be the well-adjusted flesh.
Okay, that's not me.
That's the person that's very outgoing and happy and seems to kind of have it all together. And yet, if it's not coming from the true source of the one who is good, then it's an imitation, you see? And Satan can certainly try to imitate, can he? He was the one that suggested that you could be like God, that you could decide, that you could do evil, and you could determine what was good and wrong. And so it's deceptive. Another characteristic of flesh is just the opposite, what we might call poorly adjusted flesh. This person have very low self-esteem. They don't even have the basic needs met. Every community has some that can't really take care of themselves. We call them poorly adjusted. But then there's those that, that what I like to call religious flesh, or really the Sunday go to meeting flesh, where One can be devoutly active in religious activities and yet be really lukewarm as to an intimate relationship with Christ. They're just really pretending.
They're just focused on the works or the deeds, that type of thing.
Whatever the performance standards are, they're going to try to pretend that they're living up to all of them. And they put on their little Sunday smile, and you ask them how they are, they say, wonderful, when they just came out of the car screaming and fighting with the kids and the wife and in the parking lot.
Rats, I'm guilty.
Another type of flesh that we might talk about is self-depreciating, kind of inferior flesh. Always down on myself, maybe believe, well, I'm no good to God or frankly to anyone else. And sometimes that even appears to be kind of humble. And yet it's flesh characterized by self-pity and self-condemnation. And who's the point of reference to that again? It's me, but whose character expression am I really giving myself to? You see, again, we're deceived as to what kind of behavior we're actually expressing. We think it's all being produced by us, but we don't produce anything. As we said in an earlier show, we don't produce good character and we don't produce evil character. We derive all that we do. And then there's passive flesh. It lets others take the lead, just does what it's told to do. This person may even defend themselves by saying, well, I'm just trying to be in submission. I don't want to do the wrong thing. They even may be religious and say, I'm waiting on God. So, but it's a form of subtle control, isn't it? If I don't make a decision, then I can't be wrong. It's kind of a form of self-protection. So, who is encouraging us to do that once again? It's certainly not God. And then there's violent flesh. I think we've probably all seen that. Violent flesh of anger, of verbal, of physical abuse. And this person, wants to seek ultimate control of other people's. They're threatened when they're not in control. And those are just a few of kind of a sampling of hundreds of fleshly characteristics that we can talk about.
And then in general, most of these self-help, right, which should be your alarm going off when you hear that title.
Yes, it should.
Self-help. But that's what all these books are based on, is a different performance to get out of one of these. But it's just going to put you into a different one of these, correct? Which then you're going to need another book to try when that doesn't work out for you.
It's interesting. The first example of a fleshly response after Adam and Eve ate of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, they were hiding in the bushes, were they not?
Yeah.
And they were trying to sew fig leaves to cover their nakedness. And God says, hey, Adam, where are you? What are you doing? And he says, well, I'm naked. So the very first thing is that they were trying to fend for themselves.
Right.
They were still dependent. All they had to do is say, God, we've really messed up. We need some clothes, which obviously he provided for them because he gave them adequate clothing right after that. So this lie concept that we're an independent self, the whole burden is on us. And the reality is that we can't resist these fleshly characteristics in our own strength. Trying harder won't work. And in fact, the scripture says it this way, nothing good dwells in my flesh.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. When you hear these things and then you kind of start identifying these things, it should be a light going off to a lot of people going, well, let me step back and pause. Again, it's like you said, and I think some of this, and this happens with a lot of people, is they just do not understand. Again, like you said, they think they have to do something else to be. I have to do something else to fix this problem. I have to do something else as opposed to just abiding in the vine, if you will, going to the right source. So then you will start expressing. I like when you use that term because it's not like you'll start doing the right things.
No.
You just, the character will start to be expressed through you, which is really kind of you doing nothing. just kind of being it's your choice to partake.
Right.
And participate.
And that's the word, Derek. You know,
Yeah.
we're participants. It's relational. It's a fellowship. It's a communion. It's a partnering. That was the beauty of God's designing human beings to being partakers of His divine nature, so that we could experience His goodness, His good behavior. That was His design. And when we try to do it in supposed self-sufficiency, it all breaks down because it's the lie. We can't solve our own problems. We go into a coping mode, don't we? Attempting to escape pain and defeat.
Yeah, well, I think that's that's kind of. We're going to take a break here in a second. When we come back, we're going to start talking about, the bottom line is that Satan doesn't care which way he steals your life, as long as he keeps you distracted from your relationship from God. Correct?
Amen.
And he's going to do that right through your flesh. Correct?
Yes.
So we'll talk a little bit more about that when we come back from this break in just a couple minutes.
Hey, this is Jason with the Sideline, along with Mike Kelly, new owner-operator in your Mall Chick-fil-A location. We have a mission for you.
Eat more chicken. It's a simple 6-day-a-week mission.
And if you choose to accept this mission, go to the Indian River Mall Chick-fil-A right now. Remember, they're closed on Sunday.
Disclaimer, no chickens were hurt during the making of this commercial. This message will self-destruct.
Now!
This is Jason with the Sideline. Listen, you need a bike? You need your bike repaired? Check out Allen's Bicycle Center.
Allen's Bicycle Center, located in old downtown Vero at 2020 Commerce Avenue. They are the largest and oldest established bike shop in the county. 6,000 square feet of bikes and accessories, and 25 years they've been in this town.
Your bike won't go? They'll fix it. They'll make it go. You want a new one? You can buy one there. They got everything you need to put on that bike, make it work. They even got spin class shoes. Check them out. Tell them the Sideline sent you.
All right, we're back. We were talking about the flesh, talking about all the different, different ways. I think you said how you like your flesh.
Yeah.
Characteristics. How do you like it served? And the bottom line is the flesh does not like to be exposed. The flesh is very proud, and then we'll go from there. I mean, there's just. Like we just talked about it right before we broke, is he doesn't care which way he steals your life. That's what he come to do, to rob, steal, and destroy. And he loves using the flesh to keep you distracted from your relationship with God. Basically, he wants to keep you distracted so you do not find that source, to start deriving from that source.
Absolutely. And, we really only have one enemy, and that is the evil one. And he does use the worldly attractions. He uses the world system. And he uses our flesh patterning, but he's the mastermind behind it all. And so some of the most common characteristics, Derek, that I'm sure we're familiar with is a fleshliness. I would say coming in at number one.
All right.
Coming in at number one.
All right. Our weekly top 10 list, number one.
Exactly. Flesh is a controller. Boy, we love to be in control, don't we?
Yeah, I love control.
Yeah, its natural state, that is the flesh, is to try to control. It kind of comes with the package.
Right.
To some extent, every human being has controlling fleshly tendencies. It's just more obvious in some people than others.
So when you say that guy has a control issue. No, we all have a control issue.
We all have control issues. It's just, like I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, it might be higher or lower for somebody. So, but the reality is this so-called control, once again, is really delusional. Because it buys into the lie that we can be independent, that we can manufactured that we can produce ourselves. And the reality is that we're derivative. So we're not producing anything. We're deriving what we're doing, and this fleshliness, this controlling tendency, is coming from Mr. Controller himself, i.e. Satan. So from birth, we've been kind of trying to order our own world. I read a recent newspaper article to the editor. You know how they have those advice columns, and one of the moms wrote in and said, "My dear friend's 7-month-old baby throws temper tantrums so severe that he falls over in a faint. My friend has to spray water on the face of this precious baby to get him to breathe again." Another letter to the same editor from a lady was, "My 2-year-old child does not let me go. At Sunday school, he throws a tantrum, and I literally have to pry him off of me to get him to go into the class." Now, the columnist, the doctor, replied by saying that these children are telling you with their tantrums, "I want to be in control of my world." You think?
Yeah, it's like they're born with it. We all do that. We all look at our kids on other things, like how do boys just instinctively know how to make truck noises and gun noises?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and things like that. You're like, how does he know how to do that? Little babies, you just know how to grab it and make the noise. Just there's all sorts of things like that. But and that's what I'm saying is, how hard is it for someone typically? Because I know it took me for a while to get this, that I'm not in control, right? I'm not. I'm really not. I'm derivative. I mean, you've been running around the whole time thinking you're in control of all these things when you're really not. So how hard is it for people to let go of that? Because that's kind of like, because nobody wants to say, well, yeah, I guess I've been deceived. You don't want to admit to that almost. That's so part of the control. You would say. We
always think we have one more resource.
Right.
One more kind of rabbit to pull out of the bag of tricks,
Right.
Something to get it done. And we don't want to concede defeat. That's the worst case scenario. We'll try harder.
Well, yeah, especially, it's got a sports show. I think, I got to dig down deeper. I got one more shot.
Yeah.
I'm going to make it this time.
Well, and talking about control, some of the manifestations of this, for example, flesh is self-protective.
Yeah.
See, we want to protect ourselves to what? To control, what's happening. So what methods do we employ to protect ourselves from whatever we perceive is going to be pain or loss or hurt or, whatever we don't like? Self-defense measures. Psychiatrists will talk about these behavioral defensive mechanisms that we have in place. And so there's lots of them. The flesh does not like to be exposed for what it is. Another aspect of control of the flesh is that it kind of holds us captive or a victim. It's unable to conquer the habits. We would call them sinful habits. The things we want to stop doing. I really want to stop doing that, but I'm not capable of doing it. All the addictions today. Flesh is also deceptive. It masquerades as truth, but it's really not. It's proud. I don't want to admit that I'm weak. I've tried so hard to be a success. And yet that's almost kind of like idolatry, right. Being our own God. Idolatrous things is anything that separates us from an intimate relationship with God.
Yeah, the interesting thing about this list that you're talking about right now, if you step back from it and you look at it, you're going to know that's descriptive of the characteristics of the flesh. And then what you're saying earlier, what expression of which person is that? Satan or Jesus? It's a pretty easy list. I don't think you would use any one of these in connection with Jesus's character. So it's kind of, if that's not hitting you in the face like a 2x4, I don't, I don't know what will. But maybe you still think you have that one bag, you have that one thing in your bag still, if you're not
right.
really looking at this way.
Yeah, and we could illustrate it in a real simple way. Flesh kind of like an octopus.
Right.
You know, it's got many tentacles, but it really only one problem. And, you know, an octopus, I did a little research on them. They got these 8 tentacles, and they go in all these different directions. It's interesting that it's this deceptive little thing. It can change colors. It can hide. It can mimic other fish. You know, we were told that we should mimic God. It has a razor sharp beak that it uses to decimate its prey.
Oh, sounds like the tongue.
Yeah, sounds like the little member of the tongue. It can squeeze its body into unsuspecting little places, and so you know there's over 160 different species of octopi, and it's kind of like our flesh. You know, our flesh. You know, regardless of what manifestation of flesh we don't like, whether it was bitterness or pride or jealousy or hatred or anger or lust, you know, if we try to cut that off ourselves, it's like the octopus tentacle. If you cut the tentacle of an octopus off, what happens to it?
Grows back over time.
It grows back.
Over time,
and so,
right?
You know, here we are scurrying around trying to overcome these fleshly characteristics, and we really haven't got to the heart of the problem.
Well, you know, and I would pose it to you in a question is, and I sort of know the answer, so it's kind of silly for me to ask it, but a lot of people would probably be asking, how do we reform the flesh?
Well, that's a great idea because, you know, I
can't.
think we'd have to get a lot of people to sign up for that one.
Yeah.
How do we reform the flesh?
Right.
And, you know, the reality is you can't reform it.
Right.
You can't. Our attempts can only temporarily alter the behavior of the flesh. But what are we back to? Behavior modification.
Right.
And whose behavior are we using to attempt to modify the fleshliness that we don't like? It's, once again, the deceivers.
Right.
So God's not into just getting us to act better. He's wanting us to experience his life, the indwelling life of himself. And I ask people, you know, are you really ready for God's solution to take care of the fleshly issues that you might be struggling with? Because it's not going to be reformed. And there's only one person that's really ready for God's solution. Are you ready for this?
Oh, no.
Only total failures
Wow.
are ready for God's solution.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, there's some people going, I don't like that.
Well,
I don't
see,
like that. Wait, I'm not a failure. I'm
That's
a winner.
because we're independent selves, and we're going to make it work, and we're going to try harder, and we're going to perform.
No,
and we're
I
gonna
think you
do
got
it.
the guy right now driving around listening going, dude, you guys are nuts. I'm not a failure. I'm a winner. And guess what, pal? In that sentence, you just said I several times.
Yeah. Well,
And that's the problem.
A total failure is one who gives up trying to live life on his own, which is, we just talked about, which is a lie, trying to please God at some point. I tell people, stop trying to please God. Just asking for his help once in a while. You know, that whole kind of God's my co-pilot thing.
Right.
No, he's not. You know, until we give up, until we finally get desperate enough that we say, God, I can't do it anymore. As I tell people, stop trying to live the Christian life and allow the only one that's ever lived it, Jesus Christ, to express his life through you. Experience the indwelling presence, the outlived life of Jesus Christ himself.
Now, that's a super interesting point of view there. Stop trying to live the Christian life because, again, you're trying to produce something that you cannot. You need to just experience it and kind of participate along with it, what he's doing inside you. And we're going to pick up next time with that. So, again, we're with Don Brzezinski, cross-life.org, right? Cross-life.org. And you can pick up some of the past stuff if you're getting a little lost, or you can just go call and go talk to Don. He'd love to talk to you. So we're going to see you next time.
I want to